Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to our first session, really, for the new alumni program for our upGrad immersion event students. I hope you remember me. So I'm Dr. Mike. I've been involved in this program since its inception. So all those years ago, when we were talking about adding something extra to the MBA process and doing that through our Liverpool immersion event, I've been involved in leading that. So this to me is an honor and a pleasure to be able to work with you again. Okay. Now, what we're going to try and do in this shortish presentation, and for those of you who remember me, I tend to say things like this will take 5 minutes, and 15 minutes later, we're still talking about it. So please, if we go slightly over time, forgive me. But I will try to keep to time as much as possible. Okay. So this introductory session, I'd like to do a number of things. Obviously, again, is to welcome you to your university, Liverpool John Moores, LJMU, and Liverpool Business School, LBS. I want to briefly revisit the immersion events to set the purpose and process, the learning processes for our alumni partnership. I'd like to do that a number of ways, but one in particular I think should almost become a theme for us over the years now as we work together, and that's a very important theme of continuing professional development. Again, you may remember when we met, I almost always raised this question with you. The question being, what next? That when you complete our MBA and you are graduates and you turn into alumni, what else can we do together that you will find interesting, helpful, significant? And again, some of you may remember the point I make about scholarly business practice. That when you join a program such as the MBA or even the DBA, for example, what you're doing is you're making a significant personal change. You are changing from being a business professional into being a scholarly business professional, where we encourage you to learn, to be curious, to challenge, to develop, to be more confident in what you're doing, because you're doing these things from an informed perspective. Now, my view and the view of the team is that should not stop when you've completed your formal qualification. It should develop. And this alumni program, and our particular alumni program, is an attempt to do that with you, to develop a partnership where we work together. And as a consequence of this, you continue to be a scholarly business practitioner. And then we'll finish the session, and there's a nice, interesting quotation there on the slide, isn't it? Command is lonely, Mike. Okay. I won't say much about this now, but we'll finish our introductory session with that comment. I'll explain what that means, what its significance is, and hopefully we'll use that as a prompt for doing things together as we move forward. So let me just emphasize that word again, doing things together. Okay, thank you. A learning community. What does that mean? Why do we want to do it? And in particular, what sort of learning community? Now, last week, I'll tell you a story. Those of you who know me, I always tell stories. I probably tell too many stories, but here we go. Another story. Last week, there was a serious flood in the building where my office is. I think some of you know where that is, number 2 Rodney Street. And I cannot use my office at the moment, and maybe not for another 2 or 3 weeks. So I was looking for a room to make this presentation in, and I walked down the corridor and I went into this beautiful room, the Roscoe room, and it was serendipitous. I sat down, and I might show you this at some point, but this room is surrounded by beautiful tiles that capture the people who have presented what we call the Roscoe Lectures. The Roscoe Lectures are annual events. We may have 5, 6 Roscoe Lectures in a year, and we invite people from the local community, national community, and in particular, the international community to come to JMU, to introduce themselves, to present themselves, to share their passions, their successes, their aims, and so on. And this becomes a rich part of this university. I want to share this with you because I think you must and should be part of this type of international learning community. Now, I'm sitting behind the slides for the presentations from 2004 to 2008. Again, another story, but I did this on Friday. I did a rehearsal of this presentation, and I didn't put the blur. So if you're looking at the screen now, the room's blurred, isn't it? If I was to take that blurring off, you would find all of these names beautifully presented behind my head. But unfortunately, the text would be in reverse. I know many of you are technical people, so you will laugh at this. I'm sure there's a very easy way to deal with this. I've not found that easy way yet, and I'm determined to send out this welcome. So I'm not going to show you these slides, but maybe sometime in the future for one of these presentations, I'll go around the room with you and we'll do it properly. Okay. But I've added names, so you can see on this slide, the names which appear just behind my head. And these are for some of the Roscoe lectures, 2004 to 2008. And the one immediately behind my head is for 2004. So let me share some of these names of the people who were part of JMU, part of our community, wanted to be involved with us and made a Roscoe lecture. Well, straight away, the first name is a standout name, isn't it? So here we have His Holiness, the Dalai Lama. I won't say anything else, but in terms of a national, international figure, very, very significant international figure. Then we move to someone who is much more of a national figure than the Dalai Lama, Lord Putnam, President of UNICEF. Now, even if you don't know Lord Putnam, I'm sure you know UNICEF. Then we have Sherry Booth, QC, LJMU Chancellor Emeritus. And again, some of you may know Sherry Booth, but you may also know her as the wife, partner of our former Prime Minister, Tony Blair. Okay. Then we have Lord Goldsmith, QC, Her Majesty's Attorney General. Professor Adam Hochschild, University of California, Berkeley. And we'll finish, and this is quite legitimate, I'm not making this up, at the end of 2004, we have His Royal Highness Prince of Wales, who, as some of you will know, is now King Charles III. So I'm drawing your attention to these names and the Roscoe lectures and so on for a number of important points. I think what we have here is a good, powerful example of how a university such as JMU can have an important profile locally, nationally, and internationally. You are part of that community now. Okay. It also demonstrates, I think, another point, and we might be being a bit ambitious saying this, but we're going to say it anyway, that These names were from 2004. If you wanted to Google them now, 20 years later, you would find, probably for most of these people, significant developments since 2004, both personally, privately, and professionally. We don't stop learning, or we shouldn't stop learning. We can make huge contributions. I say to you when we meet as a group that you are the future, and I think that's right. You, like these people, can have impacts on your communities, your families, your friends, your companies, your organizations. And if we were maybe to come back into the future, 20 years from today, and we were talking together, I would imagine many of you would have developed significantly over those last 20 years. So we would like, if we can, to help you to continue your development, to continue your progress, and to help you make a difference. LBS, for example, our current, not sure what phrase to use here really. I don't like logos and so on. And our current idea, our current purpose, which I quite like that word, is shaping a better future. So we've decided that this is our mission statement, our purpose, our aim, and you are part of the LBS community. So hopefully working together and all the different ways in which we can work together will help all of us to shape a better future. I could go on, I could keep talking. I'm sorry, I'm already saying too much, but again, important points to make, I think. We are using the LJMU Connect site for our program. And we're doing this quite deliberately. LJMU Connect is the university alumni site. We have really fortunately got Michael Humphreys, who's one of the senior managers on this site, to work with me on this program. That will be very advantageous. Michael is a technical person, unlike me. He's familiar with these approaches. He will help to make this site work well. Even more importantly than this, Michael works for JMU as a whole. If you join this site through LJMU Connect, you will have access to all of the events, ideas around new learning, contacts, offers, and so on, which are available throughout LJMU. Please take advantage of that. We will keep talking to you now over the next few months. Okay. You've also then got, quite specifically, the LJMU upGrad Immersion program. Too many programs here. I apologize for that. Okay. We could edit it out so we can live with it. But we've got our new, now that you are hopefully are now part of, our alumni program. So that's us. Learning community. Briefly, quickly, the learning processes, quite deliberately, we want to mirror the learning processes that we used in the immersion process. So we want a mix of thought leadership. You will remember the many fascinating inputs we've had in the past from our professors, our readers, us, and so on. So we will continue with that. So I'll be asking my colleagues if they would like to make a contribution to our site. And if you remember from your time here, any of our professors or readers who you would like to listen to again or work with again, please let us know, contact us, give me some of those suggestions, okay? And if you notice in that second bullet point, quite deliberately, I've added a new. I know that many of you are working at the cutting edge of so many important projects, so many important businesses, and so on. And you can make a very important contribution to this process. So as we move forward, let's talk about this as well. the more we can make this into a genuine community, not just an LBS-led community, but a genuine learning community, the better. So let's not forget that point as well, okay? The second learning strategy that we are going to use to work with thought leadership is to look at some processes, some learning processes where we ask you to do something, yeah? We want you to be actively involved to continue and develop your learning and your professional practice, your CPD, your lifelong learning. We'll finish this slide with just a few comments on the poster prize process. Now, for those of you who joined the early immersion programs, we didn't use this poster prize process. Basically, when you were here, you took part in sessions, you asked questions, but largely you listened to presentations. We've evaluated the program 2 years ago. We decided that probably what we needed to do was something else. We needed to add a process that would be interesting and useful. So for example, rather than asking you or telling you about the importance of network, we'd set up a process where you had to network, where you had to work in teams, where you had to meet deadlines, where you had to be critical, where you had to be creative, where you had to make decisions, and where you had to produce something in competition. Now, we as a team will argue that those are major points. All those points I've just run through very quickly are major professional points that we should address, that we should help you to develop more effectively. So we did that. We set up the poster prize process. So you were all split into groups. You were asked to produce a state-of-the-art, if possible, poster that would speak for itself as a team, and we would award prizes. It's been very, very successful. We enjoy it. The participants enjoy it. We laugh, we have some fun, but we take it seriously. So in other words, now doing something has to be an intrinsic part of your program, which I think takes us neatly to the final slide for this presentation. Again, those of you who have been with us recently will remember me talking about Command is Lonely, Mike. For those of you who were in the earlier programs, I didn't present this particular session in this way. So I'll briefly remind everybody what we're talking about here. And what we're talking about is what I've called here on the first bullet point, the Major Arthur O'Brien story. Briefly, I promise briefly. Major Arthur O'Brien was a major in the British Army, and genuinely he was in the Special Air Services Division, the SAS. I met him when I led a program, leadership program, must be about 9 years ago now, maybe. And this was aimed at senior leaders, private sector, public sector, health, and obviously the military in this case. An excellent program, even though I say so myself. Everybody seems to enjoy it. We got a lot from it and so on. The program ended. This is the story. When we finished, Major O'Brien, Arthur, who's no longer with us, I'm afraid, but I did ask permission before he passed away. Could I talk about this? He was delighted to. So I'm using his name. This is the man. Walked out to the car park with me, and I remember it distinctly. His arm over my shoulder, walked together to the car. As we're walking along, he said, Mike, I really enjoyed that program. I learned a lot about leadership, some of which I probably knew, but there were lots of new ideas. But he said, I don't want to sound too critical, Mike, but I think you've missed one of the most important points. And then he said, Mike, command is lonely. Obviously, command in his context probably a better word than leadership, maybe. Anyway, that was what he said. And he said, this is so important to people as they're moving forward, as they're developing their careers. And more, we have to do that in splendid isolation. We should have addressed that more. But Mike, not just simply talking about it, not giving us more ideas or more theories about loneliness and command and so on. We should have done things together, even to break down that loneliness in the group and so on. It's important that we don't just talk about these things, but we try to practice some of these things. So anyway, I thanked him. I wasn't offended at all. I was really happy to receive this sort of feedback. And I went away and thought about it. And I've thought about it ever since. So more and more, when appropriate, I've shared the story with learners and students and so on. And we've tried to do something about it. Okay. So in our alumni program, our starting point for this doing, if you like, learning process is threefold. We would like to start with discussing mentoring with you and hopefully very quickly setting up mentoring processes with you within this alumni group. We'd also like to talk about coaching and maybe doing some coaching, but that's maybe a bit more difficult, but we will address that. And then we will also address action learning, which is my passion. And again, those of you who met me recently, I've talked in some detail about action learning with you, but we'll replicate that in this program and we'll develop it. And if we can arrange action learning sets for you to take part in and to participate in, then I think that will be a very helpful and important way forward for your CPD. So I'm going to stop there. And again, apologies for the length of this presentation, but hopefully you found it interesting, useful. You found it attractive in the sense that you might want to really take part and learn with us again throughout the alumni process. And then finally, if you have any friends, networks, people who were on the program with you and who you think might enjoy taking part in the alumni program, please ask them to look at the site, and to take part. So great. So thank you for listening. Thanks for your attention. I'm going to stop the presentation here and we'll work together. I will present something else towards the end of this week as well. So thank you very much.